Don in London, hello. It's my video for May 3rd, all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance could have been anything. Primary, alcohol, and my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. Being in the right place, with the right people, with the right things. Trying to be perfect. And trying, very trying, as a person. And as was once said to me, the more I tried for perfection, it meant for some people, whatever would they do if they let me down? And I was asked this by one particular person who meant a lot to me. And the answer simply was, I'd never thought about anyone letting me down. It was always about me letting other people down. And that can be construed as trying to please people to a large degree in order to fit in and see what my place in society might be, or in community, or just in work. So these days, trying to be free of all those burdens and just be me, and just know a little bit more about who I am by the end of today. So what's made this possible? Well, family, friends, community, medical people, and a fellowship called AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I never speak for AA, can only speak for me. AA is full of unique, authentic people who speak where they will about their recovery. But I'm very lucky to be a part of something and then learn how to be a part of the world, family, community, anything. And also to choose what I belong to make choices with freedom, without needing to fit in. Maybe needing to be included, but that's as I choose, where I choose. And what a relief that is. So how did AA help me? Well, it helped me get sober and stay sober. And I utilise and live the 12-step program of AA. And it's now May. Where is this year going? So for me, 12 steps, 12 months, trying to cover one a month in some way or other. And I share from this book, the Daily Reflections, which also covers one step a month as well. So January, all about step 1, powerless over alcohol, and if I were to drink again, life would get unmanageable. And step 2, I did come to believe that a power greater than me could help restore me to sanity. And that higher power, if you like, or a power greater than me, happens to be the universe, nature, providence, me listening to the world to find out what the truth is these days, rather than try and make life my truth, and learn how to love and be loved back, and learn wisdom from other people. So completely learning life on a daily basis. So I know some things intuitively, and then I have to learn the rest on a daily basis, which is all good because it means I keep on learning, and learning for me is all about humility, and that's what the 12 steps give me. It's okay to make mistakes these days and learn from them and not worry about it. Worry more if I try to cover something up. So step 2 was February, step 3 was all about let go and let God, or let go and let something else happen. In other words, I'm not God. So again, nature and providence, show me the way. People, wisdom, you name it, it's out there. It's not really in me, and it doesn't need to be. I'm not the oracle. I'm not on a pedestal. I'm just on the same level playing field as everybody else. And then step 4, which was April, all about doing a fearless moral inventory in order to unlock what was holding me back, apart from alcohol. And the fearless moral inventory really is a self-appraisal of assets and liabilities, those things which get in the way most often, like fear, putting on a brave face so I don't show any hurt. These days it's okay to be hurt, and say so. I feel hurt by that. And move on. Don't dwell on it. Don't save it up for a rainy day, or to explode at the wrong people by just not dealing with it. So dealing with things on a daily basis. And then this month, step 5, is all about exactly admitting to God, to ourselves and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. So with the step 4, we find somebody we can share the detail of our life story, the good and the bad, the assets and the liabilities, what made us angry and resentful, and what was my part in it. And of course, with step 5 being a revealing process, we get to a point where secrets don't keep us stuck anymore. We don't have to keep secrets. It doesn't mean we have to share everything with the whole world. We just find one person who is willing to listen and maybe reflect back what might be helpful. So that's it, step 5 for May. The daily reflections is all about step 5 for this month. And it says here for May 3rd, cleaning house. Somehow, being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person, until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden. Our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. So we may admit it to God, what we did and why we did it, and what was the impact on other people and ourselves, and what was my part in it, and not necessarily what was the part of other people. It's why did I do those things, and revealing it to a higher power is also about revealing it to another human being. So they say confession is good for us, and we don't want to be stuck in secrets anymore. So as we reveal to somebody who understands the 12-step program, or really understands what it is to share our life story, then we are in good stead. We're in the right place. It goes on to say, it wasn't unusual for me to talk to God and myself about my character defects, and that was also me and my good conscience, what was going on in my head. I would always have a conversation with the internal higher power, my good conscience, or sometimes just want to gloss over it, or remain in ignorance of what I needed to do to put things right. But not now. But to sit down face to face and openly discuss these intimacies with another person was much more difficult. I recognised in the experience, however, a similar relief to the one I had experienced when I first admitted I was an alcoholic. I began to appreciate the spiritual significance of the program, which is living in reality without things getting in the way, like alcohol, and that this step was just an introduction to what was yet to come in the remaining 7 steps. And the good news is that as we go through step 4, which is a bit of hard work, writing everything down, and then share it with another human being who has a clue how they may be able to help with the steps, or with just dealing with the information about our assets and liabilities, and what really wound us up and kept us drinking, then the other 7 steps do sort of flow very nicely together. Indeed, all the steps, all the time, they all work for me on a daily basis. So sometimes I get that heart-stopping moment when I remember something which I maybe forgot to include in my step 4, and then I can share it with another human being as well, in order to get it out, to look at my part in it. And as I get used to doing all of this, step 10, which is about doing a daily inventory, and also sharing that often with the higher power and another human being, becomes routine, and we do it in meetings or wherever we feel most comfortable. So what can I say about AA? Well, although I don't speak for it, I can share about how it works for me, and it works every single day. It shows me my part in what is going on, that I am completely powerless over people, places and things, and if I start to try and influence unduly and take away other people's freedom of choice by saying my choice is better, so do it my way, I know I'm in for a rough day, or I'm deluding myself in some way, because life is about interdependence, level playing fields, level feelings, and not keeping secrets which get us stuck in old behaviour, hiding, letting people down, and ultimately in relapse if we're not careful, because anger, unjustified or justified anger of whatever kind, is no good for us. We live and learn. Anyway, it's been a weird weekend, very strange, royal weddings, the finding and ending of life for anarchists, some of them anyway. It's monumental, all this stuff, and life goes on. Family life, difficult at the moment for me, but that's all right. It's just where it need be, and I'm there and part of as I need to be. not influencing other people's freedoms, and not getting in the way. All these things I'm learning. How to deal with life on life's terms. So it's not easy for anybody, and the news over the last few days has been up and down for all sorts of reasons, on a personal and with a more outward-looking pair of eyes. The Serenity prayer, which helps me when all this stuff is going on, just to make sense of what I can do myself on a daily basis, rather than try and solve the problems of the world, is the Serenity prayer to God of good conscience as you come to believe for yourself. And it's your understanding of a higher power which counts, and not mine. So to God, or in good conscience, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me is just for today.
Don in London, hello. It's May 3rd, 2009. My video is all about recovery from either addiction to substance or behaviour, or addiction to substances and behaviours. And I was very gratified to get an update from a watcher yesterday about my diatribe on the 12 steps, do one fellowship at a time. And they pointed out they actually got benefit from going to 2 fellowships. And I need to listen to the experience, strength and hope of others around addiction, because it can hit us in so many ways. And I do believe that all people, everyone, is unique and authentic on their journey, that we are similar, but yet we still have this uniqueness and authenticity. It's our life experience from where we are now. At the same time, many of us have got one similarity, and that is addiction. And this addiction to either substance or behaviours. Mine was alcohol, and my behaviours could be workaholic, relationshipaholic, any old holic, you name it, gymaholic, sweetaholic, chocolate. I could go for anything and not be able to stop. And there was a gap in me, and I didn't know what it was. And gradually, over time, I became so self-obsessed, just wanting oblivion, not wanting to wake up on a daily basis, that I just couldn't cope anymore. And it's when I got to that place of I cannot cope anymore, and I don't know how to make my willpower work, that I suddenly realised that actually I don't have to do this on my own. I can't do it on my own, and maybe I need some help. Really, really do need some help. So I rang up my psychiatrist, and she said, come in but don't stop drinking. And she offered me a place in detox, a 3-week detox. And I thought, well, that sounds good. And then immediately, having said yes, I felt no, because it meant, well, what she said was good. She said, keep on drinking until you get there, but don't overdo it, because if you do, you might not make it. So I did exactly what she said, and it softened the cushion between giving it up and going into detox, and then being, I guess, put in isolation for 2 days whilst I sweated it out. And then on to rehab, and I suppose my feelings about rehab can remain where they are for now. But rehab did one thing: it put a roof over my head, so I could get really rageful and angry about my situation. But it didn't stop me drinking. What really helped was being in fellowship, and it was the fact that a lot of good old boys down in South London who've been in fellowship for many years said, whatever happens, keep coming back, because we'll look after you. And I didn't know what that meant, and it felt awkward because I'd always done it on my own, my way. So no longer doing it my way. The fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and any other fellowship you feel is right for you, is right for you. And working the steps in your own way is absolutely fundamental. It's a 12-step action program to change attitude and behaviour, just gently and gradually on a daily basis. So I'm moving back from a position I took yesterday, and it's important that I can change on a daily basis. Otherwise there would be no recovery, as recovery requires change on a daily basis towards making life work. So what are my videos about? Well, how AA fellowship helps me, that's Alcoholics Anonymous. And at the beginning of every meeting I go to, of which there are 600 to choose from in London each week, a preamble is shared. It's not necessarily the same where you are, but this is what we use, and it's part of the AA literature. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. We are unique, authentic, equal-sized, so all I may do is speak about my experience, strength and hope. But the preamble helps me because it slows me down into this moment. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And I went to 2 good meetings yesterday. One where I made some tea in the morning. That's the spiritual experience at 11:45, and all I know about spiritual experience is this: it's about less denials and less filters and seeing reality as it is in the moment of now. So I'm in a 1 day at a time program, and I live in the now as much as I can, and that's spiritual. It's not connected to a religious belief. It's a belief in the universe and nature and providence, and that we're here to make the best of what we have. And it's not all about adversarial winning. It's about living experiences which keep us in a place of understanding what serenity might mean on a daily basis. And for me, serenity can be good or bad. It's understanding and accepting where I am today. So AA helps me with all of this, and here on YouTube and other places, because my videos seem to be all over the place at the moment, I use the Daily Reflections book, which is a 1-page meditation I guess in the morning, just to make things easier and be focused on recovery and not on self-obsession. 12 steps and 12 traditions, which I'm doing a step a month. There are 12 steps, 12 months. So step 5 is May's one, and that's about, to be clear, admitted to God of your understanding, not mine, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, which comes from the fearless moral inventory we do in step 4, which I covered in April. So the other book I use, very briefly, is this one. If I get round to it I will. But I just want to read out the summary of step 5 from this 12-step book, and the summary goes like this. I'll start with the step again. Admitted to God, to ourselves and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 12 steps deflate ego. Step 5 is difficult but necessary to sobriety and peace of mind. Confession is an ancient discipline. Without fearless admission of defects, few could stay sober. What do we receive from step 5? It's the beginning of true kinship with man and God. Lose sense of isolation. Receive forgiveness and give it. Learn humility. Gain honesty and realism about ourselves. Necessity for complete honesty. Danger of rationalization. How to choose the person in whom to confide. Results are tranquility and consciousness of God, openness with God, and man prepares us for the following steps, of which there are another 7. So it's a rich topic, how to confess our sins, if you like, but it's actually the assets and liabilities of our step 4 work. So there is balance in there, but it will give us an overall feeling of where we can improve ourselves, and that is the great gift it gives us. In As Bill Sees It, it's a long reading. I don't know if I'm going to have time, but today, 3rd of May, it says here, cleaning house, which is really what step 4 and 5 are about. Somehow, being alone with God doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing up to another person. Until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden, our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical, and all the steps are about experiencing life and doing life, not observing it or criticising it. It wasn't unusual for me to talk to God and myself about my character defects, or in my case, good conscience, on any given day, agnostic, atheist or God believer, because I haven't worked it out, and I don't think I can. It's a feeling and a faith. But to sit down face to face and openly discuss these intimacies with another person was much more difficult. I recognised in the experience, however, a similar relief to the one I had experienced when I first admitted I was an alcoholic. I began to appreciate the spiritual significance of the program, and that this step was just an introduction to what was yet to come in the remaining 7 steps. Thank God they've got the mathematics right in there rather than me. And this one I'll just read as it is. Walking towards Serenity, page 92 from As Bill Sees It. I like these readings. When I was tired and couldn't concentrate, I used to fall back on an affirmation toward life that took the form of simple walking and deep breathing. I sometimes told myself that I couldn't even do this, Then I was too weak, but I learned that this was the point at which I could not give in without becoming still more depressed. So I would set myself a small stint. I would determine to walk 1/4 of a mile, and I would concentrate by counting my breathing, say 6 steps to each slow inhalation and 4 to each exhalation. Having done the 1/4 mile, I found that I could go on, maybe a 1/2 mile more, then another 1/2 mile, and maybe another. This was encouraging. The false sense of physical weakness would leave me, this feeling of being so characteristic of depressions, of which I know a lot. The walking and especially the breathing were powerful affirmations toward life and living away from failure and death. The counting represented a minimum discipline in concentration to get some rest from the wear and tear of the fear and guilt. And you know, we're lucky. And the serenity prayer today, as usual, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and simply, just for one day, to see the wisdom and the difference.
Hello, Don in London, all about recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, I speak for myself. However, AA is integral to my daily well-being, and here's the AA preamble spoken at all meetings of AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contribution. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Good morning, Don in London, and it's May 3rd, 2008, just after 7 o'clock in the morning. And May 3rd, London, UK, we have a new mayor of London, Boris Johnson, and no matter what your political persuasion may be, sometimes change is good. And I remember from the old days when I used to work in organisations going through massive change, how important it was just to change something in order to make something new happen. And it's a bit like that when we're trying to change a habit of a lifetime. And as you know from these videos, my direction is sobriety on a daily basis. And if I maintain that, then life seems to go a lot smoother, and I'm not stuck in my past. I'm not thinking too much about the future or projecting too far because it hasn't happened yet. I'm just making the best of this one moment we have, the day in hand. And it's a gift to be able to see the world as it is in the day and have all that wisdom that has been learned over the years, not contaminated these days by denials or filters caused by alcohol or by some other feeling of loss or isolation. And you know, May is all about, it's the 5th month in the year, and in the literature of AA it's all about step 5, which is sharing our truth with another human being so that we may move on and learn from the past and make today work and work out how it's going to work in the future, and that is just one day at a time. So in my little black book, which is actually blue, it's the 12 traditions and 12 steps. Step 5, there's a passage in this which is just sort of relevant this morning, and I need to change my specs. No, I don't. Right. Yes, just one little passage says, when we reached AA, and for the first time in our lives stood among people who seemed to understand, the sense of belonging was tremendously exciting. We thought the isolation problem had been solved, but we soon discovered that while we weren't alone anymore in a social sense, we still suffered many of the old pangs of anxious partners, until we had talked with complete candour of our conflicts and had listened to someone else do the same thing. We still didn't belong. Step 5 was the answer. It was the beginning of true kinship with man and God, or, as in my case, good conscience. And whatever your religious belief in God or not, or whether you believe in God or have a faith in a higher power, my faith resides in good conscience, which is of nature and providence, most likely. And and also of our social nature. So it doesn't weigh heavy on my heart whether somebody else believes in God or does not. It's how I feel about me and my life and what works. And good conscience works for me very well, because if it is connected somehow to providence and nature, and there is some sort of divinity out there, or up there, or somewhere, then I'm not on the wrong foot. I'm very much in the desire to be good, of good conscience, and be aware of 7 virtues and 7 vices, or as it's sometimes called, the 7 deadly sins. And in the Daily Reflections today, which is a book of 1 pages, if you like, for anybody in recovery, or anybody who's just looking at their lives and what's going on. May 3rd it says cleaning house, and this refers to step 5, as this book is about the 12 steps. Somehow being alone with God, or good conscience, it doesn't seem as embarrassing as facing it to another person, until we actually sit down and talk aloud about what we have so long hidden. Our willingness to clean house is still largely theoretical. And that's true of all things. If we know it in a theoretical sense, we imagine that we do it in reality. But we can stay one step removed with our thoughts, is how we endeavour with our feelings and put them into practice. So it goes on to say, it wasn't unusual for me to talk to God and myself about my character defects, but to sit down face to face and openly discuss these intimacies with another person was very much more difficult. I recognised in the experience, however, a similar relief to one that I experienced when I first admitted I was an alcoholic. I began to appreciate the spiritual significance of the programme, and that this step was just an introduction to what was yet to come in the remaining 7 steps. So step 5 of 12. And expression of who we are, what we are, how we feel, how we look at the world is so important. And if people know where we're coming from, and by expression we understand and intrinsically start to live as we feel rather than we think we ought to be, then we start to live reality. And that reality is the spiritual connection. And I think and I feel more than anything that we have wisdom and we learn it, and sometimes we forget it, or sometimes we utilise it. And the best way to actually make life work is to live it with what we have. And in the living, the actual doing of life, and being, which is the essence of us, being ourselves, if we can do that in the present moment, then we're much, much more able to make use of reality as it is, our reality, and not some wishful, imagined panacea, which means that we never have to touch the world again. Joy is not about a blissful state. A blissful state is part of what we are when we actually are in the very present moment and now. So, going on to the as Bill sees it, and these aren't in a daily order, they're in the order of the book. So, page 151, start by forgiving. The moment we ponder a twisted or broken relationship with another person, our emotions go on the defensive. To escape looking at the wrongs we have done one another, we resentfully focus on the wrong he has done us. Triumphantly, we seize upon the slightest misbehaviour as the perfect excuse for minimising or forgetting our own. Right here, we need to fetch ourselves up sharply. Let's remember that alcoholics are not the only ones bedeviled by sick emotions. In many instances, we are really dealing with fellow sufferers because whose woes we have increased. If we are about to ask for forgiveness for ourselves, why shouldn't we start out by forgiving them, one and all? And the gift of doing that, of course, is to understand our humanity for ourselves and for other humans. And to describe the negative as a sick emotion, anything is only sick, I guess, if it's persistent and prolonged, and keeping us underutilising our good of good conscience. So we can be very negative, and we can be trapped by the past, and also be trapped by our imaginations about what the future holds for us. And the difficulty, of course, is if we fall into that trap and keep it going, we are in danger of all the ailments we can face with negativity. Anyway, the big little black book, 24 hours a day. I haven't had a chance to look at this as much as I would wish in recent weeks. May 3rd. AA teaches us to take it easy. We learn how to relax and stop worrying about the past or the future. To give up our resentments and hates and tempers. To stop being critical of people and try help them instead. That's what easy does it means. So in the time that's left to me to live, I'm going to try to take it easy, to relax and not to worry, to try to be helpful to others, and to trust God, all good conscience. For what's left of my life is my motto, easy does it. And the gift of easy does it is being in the day, being on the right side of ourselves and other people.